All right. So let me talk about the meeting with the dude that I was, that I started an actual startup with, the startup with. All right. So, well, first things first. 5 days ago, or last week, basically, we messaged each other, and I wanted to check up on him on his new job, which I was excited for, and all that good stuff. And I wanted to basically It was like super fun because like I remember I was having a conversation with him, and while we were having a conversation with him, we kind of like built up to the actual job. We created its existence, and we kind of like formulated what's going on and formulated the whole, I don't know, the preparation for it. You know, like you have to prepare for the interview, you have to prepare for the job. What would you be doing at the job? Like all of these, if you take into consideration beforehand, then the people interviewing you would feel more comfortable to talk to you, and then would you'd kind of like already the way you speak, the way you approach it, basically shows them that you're already doing the job. It's just like you're just not doing it with them. And so, anyways, we did that exercise at one point, and I told him he's gonna get the job. And at one point, he basically messages me. He goes like, "No, guess what?" And I go like, tell me." It's like, "No, you got the job, didn't you?" And he said, "Yes, I did." Like fucking perfect. So I got excited, and I wanted to meet him basically to catch up. And it's been a month he's been working in the job, and it's funny because like we decided last week to meet 2 days ago or yesterday actually. Sorry, my bad, yesterday. So we decided 2 weeks ago to meet yesterday, and what happened basically is we put it on the schedule. Everything is set. Last week, a woman calls me. A woman from where I work basically messages me and goes like, "Hey, do you have any books that basically for programming that you can give me?" And I say yes. And I get her a book, the initial book that it's called Eloquent JavaScript. I love that book because it kind of describes JavaScript from A to Z and kind of like engages with it in different forms. It's funny because like uh, I've read that book. I don't know, like I've engaged with that book quite a bit. But I feel like I am still weak when it comes to reading documentation, which is literally what books are about these subjects. And it's much easier for me to read books about different things, but I still haven't kind of narrowed down the reading books documentation part of the code. And that's what I'm going to basically learn how to read documentation in order to understand better what you are doing. So I'm using learn, yeah, which is a word that I didn't like, but hey, it kind of like feels like over the past couple of months, what I was debating learning in my head heavily, it kind of pushed everything that I could learn new and enhanced whatever I already knew from an understanding perspective. Which is funny because I'm looking at it in a positive way right now, but the reality is I could have learned different things and like added different. Who the fuck knows, man? But so, anyways, reading documentation is an actual skill, and I need to actually be able to do better with that skill so that I know how to apply it. And that would basically open my mind to a different approach when it comes to code, which is what I want because I don't want to be stressing on anything when I'm working on my software, when I'm working on my website. I want to be able to like create it. I don't know. But anyways, so it's funny because like I took the note here. So I got the book and I was taking it to her, and what I saw like A4 papers, old ass A4 papers, and I took them out, and there were like random notes written on them. And it's funny because like when I see something like this, the first thing I do is I start basically reading them. Like, what were they? Why were they relevant at one point? Wouldn't anyone want to do that? And so I took them and I sat them on the side and I started reading them. The first thing that I noticed were like the papers where the guy that I was working with, we were trying to like build the actual flow of the website and the code. That guy basically, he's his initial work when it comes to the like to the startup software, the website that we were building. Then after that, like there were like a bunch of A4 papers of just random things that me and him would discuss, and my idea being put on paper and like writing it down and down and down and down and down, kind of like flushing everything out of my head. And it clicked with me because it's funny as hell. Like, whatever I am today is literally not something I would have ever considered back in the day. And the whole shift literally started with like those. I'm telling you, dude, when you're reading notes of like a couple of years back, a year back, literally November last year, because like us meeting now, 1 month after his work, was literally 1 year after me and him started working together. Right? So like, though I don't believe in coincidences, but it was funny because I looked at him, I laughed, and I go like, no, in my head, 1 year late, 1 year from now, I'm gonna come to you with a full set like project. I'm gonna be like, are you ready to start working with me again? But it's because like he really contributed a lot, like, and his mind is. We did a lot of work, and halfway through, we forgot. We forgot the effort we put. We started pressuring ourselves with a whole lot of stuff. It stopped being fun. It started becoming like intense. We didn't handle the stress properly. A whole lot of stuff. I wasn't working properly. I didn't know what to do, and I was trying my best to kind of like get out of. I wanted to see what I didn't know what I was lacking. I didn't know what I was missing. There was a whole lot of like things that were going on, and ultimately when he basically took a step when he took a step back and he's like, no, I'm like, no, dude, like it's not. You don't seem to be able to kind of like whatever it is that's going on, I see myself as failing in regards to like making it easier for you or something. And there was a lot going on, right? Like when you're not stable, everything that's not really stable starts jumping on you. So I moved back and forth, and from there I built the website myself. And then I took a month and I started studying all kinds of things regarding the website, e-commerce, online marketing, branding. I Facebook advertising, all kinds of things. I started basically studying them because in my head, like, there's a whole lot that we need to build for the startup, and I need to understand what I'm doing. And since I'm kind of stuck with the code, I want something bigger for me to kind of like look at. And it's beautiful because like I think it's an old Hindu like saying, and a guru, one of those gurus, was like describing how, like, if you want to get something done, in order for you to see it clearly, you have to put it under something super big. And then with the universe, like, when he talks about it, he talks about God. If you do something under the name of God, then your responsibility towards God is a lot bigger than that small thing that you're trying to do, right? Because relatively it becomes smaller. So you'll be able to see it clearer. All right, so like I'm not really kind of whatever it is I'm doing like for a very big reason. But every once in a while, you kind of have to look at the step after in order to like verify what step you're going through right now. But when I sat with him, I started asking him all these questions about work and what are the things he's learning and what are the things that he's interacting with and what kind of software he's using and all these like back and forth stuff that are just like the exciting parts of like being a fucking nerd. and uh, and at one point we started discussing differently that because he is working on a project and on his free time that his father has started, and it's basically an Airbnb. And that's basically my skill because like I used to be like a bartender before, and I opened a restaurant for 10 years and many like different like companies before. And with the marketing and branding that I have, with the like way I actually like, we started talking and discussing different things, and then we entered that sentimental like vibe where we were completely discussing just 1 year ago where we were and where we are right now, and what are the things that we're looking at in the future, and blah 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 blah. Super weird vibe. At the end of it, naturally, you feel a bit of anxiety because I felt like I was exposed. I felt like, and I think that's basically when you kind of like state the things that you want and you look at the world and be like, no, this is what I'm working towards. And you instantly kind of want that verification from someone or something. And I feel that's where our insecurities kind of like always kick in, because it doesn't matter if you're confident or not. What really matters is that you are absent-minded towards everything other than that. So my favorite sketch that I saw online was like about some movie director that did stuff that nobody thought would be possible. And when they asked him, how did you think about these things? He was like, it was sheer ignorance. Like all he did was just do stuff that he didn't consider if they're correct or not correct. He just tried different things. And by the end of it, he basically got an award and people appreciated his work and all this stuff. That end of it, that exposure, that small piece at the end, because like after you're like talking to somebody and you're vibing, then you kind of realize that you have opened yourself, you've let go, you have released what you have inside of you to the world. And especially when people are listening, the first thing you do is, are they judging me positively, negatively? And you start having all these conversations. But on my way back home, I was like thinking about like, I exposed a lot, and naturally the fear of like holding on to your idea came back to me. I was like, what if he becomes good enough to do it himself and all that nonsense? But then that kind of like came back to me, and in my head was like, then you have to get better, and you have to finish it soon, and you have to start building some momentum, so that even if somebody's thinking of doing it, you can go fucking suck your balls. And I think that's enough to get some confidence out of something, right? It's a good way to kind of like feel strong about like reconnecting with a part of you, which I never forgot, right? I never forgot why I'm doing everything I'm doing every single day. But you have to keep it in the back of your mind, or else you're always going to be kind of like blurred by it, because you have to finish some stuff that are that right in front of you. And sometimes they don't directly push towards it, but they're added skill sets and added like value. Whether it's just playing a chord differently on the guitar that gives you that extra boost that you're capable of doing something more, and suddenly that triggers into other stuff, or whether it's literally just going somewhere and doing something completely irrelevant to whatever you're doing just for the sake of building a certain skill set that might in the future contribute. Uh, Again, man, self-actualizing using people is the easiest way for us to kind of reflect on our timeline, where we are, where we were, and the decisions we made, and how good we would consider them, and how far away would we consider them. Cool beans. All right, I think I'll self-actualizing is the end of this. Not bad.